My sister banned my husband from her wedding because her fiancé convinced her he was in love with her. They publicly humiliated us, and the entire family called us toxic. But when Isabella discovered the truth, the manipulator lost everything. I'm 29 years old, work in digital marketing, and honestly, I need to get this story off my chest because what happened a few months ago basically destroyed my relationship with my sister. Or, well, almost destroyed it completely. I guess I should start from the beginning. So, all of this makes sense, because when people hear the short version, they think we're crazy or that we're exaggerating. But I swear everything I'm about to tell you happened exactly like this. Isabella is my younger sister. She's like 26 years old. And we were always super close. You know, those sisters who tell each other everything and spend time together even after both left our parents' house. I married Benjamin 4 years ago, and from the beginning, Isabella and him got along incredibly well. Like they had that sibling relationship that sometimes happens when your partner integrates well into the family. Benjamin is one of those people everyone likes. He's calm, funny, and he was always super protective of Isabella, like an older brother even though technically he's an only child. She would call him when she had car problems. He would help her move, that kind of thing. And to me, it was beautiful to see that my husband and my sister had that bond. You know what I mean? Never in 4 years did it cross my mind that anyone could misinterpret that relationship because it was so obviously fraternal that it wasn't even something we thought about. About a year and a half ago, Isabella met Cole on a dating app, and at first everything seemed fine. I mean, he was attentive and said the right things and treated her like a princess, basically what any older sister wants to see. They dated for like 6 months before he proposed marriage, which seemed a bit fast to me, but well. Isabella was happy and in love, and I wasn't going to be the bitter sister who says, wait a little longer when she was glowing. Cole was always a bit weird with me and Benjamin, now that I think about it. Like he never fully relaxed when we were all together, but I attributed it to him being shy or still adjusting to the family. There were a couple of times I noticed he got kind of tense when Benjamin hugged Isabella or when they joked with each other, but again, I thought it was normal insecurity from a new relationship. I don't know. You don't want to see the red flags when your sister seems happy. The engagement lasted like 8 months, and during that time I saw less of Isabella, which didn't seem that weird to me either, because she was busy planning the wedding and working full-time at her office. But my mom did comment a couple of times that Isabella seemed more distant, that she didn't answer messages as quickly as before. So the wedding day arrived, and this is where the story gets completely surreal. Literally, you're not going to believe what happened. Like 2 weeks before the wedding, we received the formal invitation in the mail. You know, those elegant invitations with an inner envelope, and everything. And when I opened it, there was a handwritten note that said, and I swear this is verbatim, please don't bring Benjamin. Just you. I stood there staring at the paper for like 5 minutes trying to understand if it was a joke, if Isabella was doing some kind of weird humor, because honestly, it made no sense. I showed the note to Benjamin, and he was also like, what? And we both decided it had to be a mistake or a bad joke. So I sent Isabella a message asking her what was up with the note, and she responded super curtly. Just said, it's what it says. Come alone or don't come. She didn't give me an explanation, didn't answer my calls, nothing. I was super confused. I called my mom to ask if she knew anything, and she had no idea either. Said it seemed really weird, but that maybe Isabella was stressed about the wedding and not to make a big deal of it. I talked to Benjamin and told him, look, obviously this is crazy, but it's my sister's wedding. I can't not go. So we decided we were going to go both of us anyway, because naively we thought, that when we got there, everything would be cleared up and we'd laugh about this ridiculous misunderstanding. The day of the wedding, we arrived at the venue, which was a beautiful place, like a garden with white tents and everything really fancy. And I swear that the moment we walked in, I felt something was wrong. The event coordinator saw us and literally went pale. Came running toward us and told us quietly, excuse me, but the groom said that if Benjamin showed up, we had to notify him immediately. And I was standing there in my party dress thinking, is this really happening? But before I could say anything, Cole appeared with his face completely red, like you could see the veins in his neck, and he yelled at Benjamin, I told you not to come. You need to leave now. Benjamin tried to talk to him. Told him, Cole, what's going on? Tell me what I did. We can talk about this. But Cole just kept saying, leave my wedding. And people were starting to turn and look, and I wanted the earth to swallow me. Then Isabella appeared, and when she saw me with Benjamin, her Her face was pure pain and anger mixed together, and she told me, "I can't believe you did this. I asked you for one thing. One single thing." And I told her, "Isabella, what's happening? I don't understand anything." And she just shook her head and left. Cole took a step toward Benjamin and literally pushed him, like put his hands on his chest and pushed him hard. And Benjamin is calm, but he wasn't going to just stand there letting himself be assaulted. So I got in the middle and told Benjamin, "Let's go. Please, let's go." And we left. I drove back home crying the whole way. Benjamin was quiet next to me, completely in shock, and I couldn't stop asking myself what the hell had just happened. If I was in a nightmare or what? That night, messages started arriving. First from cousins, then from aunts, then from relatives. I didn't even know had my number, and they all said horrible things like, "How dare you try to ruin your sister's wedding? What kind of person brings the man who's in love with the bride? You should be ashamed." I read the messages and felt like I was going crazy. I'd passed the phone to Benjamin, and he'd also read them without understanding anything. And then we saw that Cole had posted something on social media. He didn't mention names, but it was obvious who he was talking about. Something like, "When toxic people try to ruin the most important day of your life, but true love wins." And it had like 200 comments from people saying disgusting things about us. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Messages and more messages calling me a homewrecker, saying Benjamin was a stalker, that how dare I pretend I didn't know what was happening. I spent that whole night awake, trying to understand, reviewing every interaction Benjamin had had with Isabella in recent years, every message, every photo, every time we'd been together, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing, that could be misinterpreted as romantic. Benjamin was also devastated. He loves Isabella like a sister. He literally helped her paint her apartment last year, went with her to pick out the car she bought, was there when she broke up with her ex before Cole, and now suddenly everyone thought he had feelings for her, and I honestly didn't know whether to laugh or cry because it was so absurd it didn't seem real. The next day, when I couldn't take it anymore, I went to my mom's house alone because I needed answers, and I knew that if I went with Benjamin, things were going to be worse. My mom opened the door and she looked tired, like she hadn't slept, and we sat in the kitchen with coffee, and I told her, "I need you to explain to me what's happening." "Please." She sighed and told me that Cole had talked to Isabella like 3 months ago, had told her that he noticed Benjamin looked at her in a special way, that he always found excuses to touch her or be near her, that when I wasn't around he'd send her messages asking how she was. And basically he'd built this complete narrative that Benjamin was in love with my sister and was only with me to be close to her. And the worst part, the absolutely worst part, is that Isabella believed him. My mom told me that at first Isabella had rejected it, had told Cole he was crazy, that Benjamin wasn't like that, but Cole kept on, pointing out normal things and twisting them to sound suspicious. Like, "Don't you think it's weird that he always asks if you need help? Or why do you think he always wants to come to family gatherings?" And little by little, bit by bit, he convinced her. By the time the wedding came around, Isabella was completely convinced that Benjamin had romantic feelings for her and that I was an idiot who didn't realize it or knew it and allowed it. I don't know which of the two options is worse. My mom also told me that she and my dad at first believed Cole because, well, he's Isabella's husband. Why would he lie about something like that? But that now, after the scene at the wedding, they were starting to question if all of this really made sense. I left my mom's house feeling worse than when I arrived, if that was even possible, because now I knew that not only did Cole hate us for some twisted reason, but he had managed to manipulate Isabella into hating us too. I got home and Benjamin was on the couch with the laptop. He told me he'd been reviewing all the messages he'd sent Isabella in the last 2 years. There were like 50 messages total. And they were all things like, "Hey Isabella, your sister asked me to ask you if you're coming Sunday," or "Happy birthday. Hope you have an amazing time." Nothing even remotely romantic or inappropriate. I told him what my mom had said and he just put his head in his hands, and I think I'd never seen him so devastated because he really loves Isabella, sees her as family, and thinking that she believed he had hidden intentions all this time broke his heart. That night, I sent a long message to my parents. I told them that I understood they wanted to believe Isabella's husband, but that they needed to see reality, that Benjamin had never done anything inappropriate, that they could check his phone, our social media, talk to our friends, whatever, but that I wasn't going to allow them to accuse him of something so horrible without any proof. I told them that if the family was going to keep treating us like we were the worst people in the world for Cole's invention, then we'd rather not have contact with anyone until everything was cleared up. It was hard to write that. Like my hands were shaking while I wrote because basically I was saying they had to choose between believing Cole or believing us, but I didn't know what else to do. My parents responded the next day, said they'd talked to Isabella and Cole and that things were very complicated, that they needed time to process it all. During the next 2 weeks, it was horrible. I literally didn't talk to anyone in my family except some curt messages with my mom. Benjamin and I basically isolated ourselves because every time we went out we felt like people looked at us weird or judged us. Then, like 3 weeks after the wedding, my mom called me and told me they'd talked to several relatives who had sent hateful messages, had explained to them that there was no evidence of what Cole was saying and that everything seemed to be a misunderstanding or something worse, and several of them called or wrote to apologize. My cousins sent me messages saying they were sorry for reacting without knowing the full story. My aunts said maybe they'd been too harsh. Basically, the family was starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, Cole wasn't telling the truth. But Isabella still wasn't talking to me. And honestly, I didn't really want to talk to her either because it hurt that she'd believed me capable of something like that, of knowing that my husband was in love with her and doing nothing, or worse, being with him knowing that. About another month passed, and I was already starting to accept that maybe the relationship with my sister was broken forever, when one night, like 11 at night, the doorbell rang. Benjamin was upstairs sleeping because he gets up super early for work, so I went to open it, and there was Isabella with red and swollen eyes from crying so much, with a small suitcase in her hand. She told me, "Can I come in? Please?" And I let her in even though I was still angry with her. We sat in the living room and she started crying harder. And between sobs, she told me that Cole had been behaving more and more weird since the wedding, that he'd started accusing her coworkers of flirting with her, that he checked her phone constantly, that he'd get angry if she mentioned any man even in completely innocent contexts. She told me that a week ago, one of her best friends from college, a gay guy who's been in a serious relationship for years, came to visit the city and invited her for coffee to catch up. And when Cole found out, he exploded, told her that obviously this friend was in love with her and that she was naive for not realizing it, that all men only wanted one thing from her. Isabella had told him he was being ridiculous, that this guy was gay and had a boyfriend, and Cole had yelled at her that it didn't matter, that he could still be interested in her. She told me that in that moment something clicked in her head, that suddenly she realized the pattern, that Cole saw romantic threats in literally any man who came near her, that he'd been isolating her from her friends little by little with these constant accusations. And then she thought about Benjamin, about how Cole had built this whole story about him, and she realized it was exactly the same thing, that there was no real evidence that Benjamin had feelings for her, just Cole's twisted interpretations of completely normal things. She started crying harder and told me, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I ruined your wedding. I ruined our relationship. I let him convince me of something so horrible about Benjamin and about you, and I don't know how you can forgive me." I was also crying at that point, because the truth is, I missed my sister. I missed her horribly, but I was also super angry, because what had happened had hurt Benjamin and me so much, had made us feel like criminals, like we'd done something terrible when we'd done nothing. I told her, "Isabella, Cole is your husband. You just married him a month ago. What are you going to do?" And she said she didn't know, that she needed time to think, that she just needed to be away from him for a few days. I told her she could stay, but that she needed to talk to Benjamin, that he deserved a direct apology from her, and she said yes, that she knew, that she was ashamed to even look him in the face after what she'd thought about him. The next day, Isabella talked to Benjamin, apologized to him crying, explained how Cole had manipulated her, and Benjamin, being Benjamin, told her that he understood, that he didn't blame her, that the real problem was Cole. Isabella stayed with us for like 3 days, and it seemed like things were going to get better, that maybe we could start rebuilding our relationship, but then Cole started calling her and sending her messages, first angry ones saying how dare she leave, then super loving and manipulative ones saying he missed her and that they were going to work on their problems, and eventually Isabella decided to go back to him. She told me she owed him a chance, that they'd just gotten married, that maybe they could go to couples therapy. And I told her, "Isabella, this man almost destroyed our family with his lies. Do you really think he's going to change?" But she'd already made her decision. The next few weeks were weird. Isabella and I talked a bit more, but things were tense. She didn't. I mentioned Cole much, and I didn't ask because honestly, I didn't want to know. Our parents had also formally apologized to Benjamin and me, had told us they regretted not believing us from the beginning, that they should have questioned Cole's story more before assuming the worst about us. Benjamin forgave them faster than I did. I think, because I was still processing the fact that my own family had called me a homewrecker and worse things without even asking for my version of the story. But well, they're my parents and I love them. So eventually things started to normalize a bit. Then, like 2 months after the wedding, Isabella showed up at my house again, this time in the middle of the day, and told me she'd decided to divorce Cole. She told me things had gotten much worse, that Cole now wanted her to quit her job because, according to him, her boss looked at her too much, that he'd told her that if she really loved him, she'd leave that job and find something where she could work from home so she wouldn't have contact with other men. Isabella had told him no, that she loved her job and wasn't going to quit it, and Cole had given her an ultimatum, either the job or him. She chose the job, obviously, because she finally realized that Cole was never going to stop, that he was always going to find some man who, according to him, was a threat, that her life was going to be an infinite cycle of accusations and isolation. I told her I thought that was good, that I supported her, that she could stay with us as long as she needed while she found her own place or sorted out the legal stuff. Cole started calling constantly, everyone, Isabella, me, my parents, saying that all of this was our fault, that we'd filled Isabella's head with lies, that he only wanted to protect her. One day he showed up at my house, literally rang the doorbell like at 9 at night, and when I opened it there, he was crying, asking to talk to Isabella. I told him no, to leave, but Isabella came out and told him, Cole, I need you to leave. I've made my decision. And he started crying harder, saying he loved her, that without her he was nothing, that please give him another chance. It was uncomfortable and sad to watch, honestly. But Isabella stood firm, told him she was going to proceed with the divorce and to please respect her decision. The divorce is still in process, technically, because these things take time. But Isabella is living alone now, in a small apartment near her work. She's going to therapy to process everything that happened, and the relationship between us is improving little by little. There are still awkward moments, like sometimes we're talking and there's a weird silence because we both remember what happened, but we're working on it. Benjamin is fine too. I think it was easier for him to forgive and move on than for me, but that's how he is. He doesn't hold grudges. My parents are now super involved in supporting Isabella with the divorce. They're helping her financially with lawyers and all that. And the family in general realized how toxic Cole was and how he almost managed to destroy us all with his manipulations. Last week, Isabella and I went for coffee. Just the two of us. And we really talked for the first time about everything that happened. She told me she felt incredibly stupid for having believed Cole, that now she saw so clearly all the manipulation tactics he used, but that at the time she was so in love and so inside the relationship that she couldn't see anything objectively. I told her it wasn't her fault, that Cole was clearly good at manipulating and that what was important was that she'd finally gotten out of there before it was too late. She asked me if Benjamin and I could ever really forgive her. And I told her the truth, that I don't know, that the damage that was done was real and deep, but that I love her, and I want us to be close again like before. It's just going to take time. I don't know if things will go back to being exactly like they were before. Probably not. But we're in a better place than 3 months ago, that's for sure. Benjamin still gets a bit uncomfortable when he's with Isabella. I think part of him is afraid she'll misinterpret him again, or that someone else will. But he's making the effort for me and for her. Cole tried to contact me a few days ago, sent me a really long message apologizing and saying he was going to therapy and that he'd realized his problems. But I just blocked him because I don't have the energy or interest to deal with him. And Isabella told me I did the right thing, that she needs to cut all ties with him to really be able to heal. I guess the moral of all this, if there is one, is that control and extreme jealousy aren't love, no matter how much someone tells you they're just trying to protect you. And also that sometimes the people you love can hurt you deeply, not out of malice, but because they themselves are being manipulated, and you have to decide if you can forgive that or not. I decided yes, that my sister is worth it. But it wasn't easy, and there are still days where I get angry when I think about everything Benjamin and I went through because of Cole's lies. But well, that's how families are, I guess. Complicated and sometimes painful. But at the end of the day, it's what we have.